We are one. As we share the glory of our victories, so too should we share the pain of our defeat. In this way, we grow closer, we grow stronger. Malik al-Sayef, 1191. Hello, I'm Andrew, and I want to welcome you to Visions of the Past, a podcast all about the lore of Assassin's Creed. This is episode 111, and today I thought we'd do something a little bit different and take a look back at the main games of the series to celebrate the anniversaries that have come in the past few months. And honestly, I tried to do this a few times on my own, and I felt like it needed a little something extra. So with that being said, I've brought in a guest, the nerdy archer herself, Louise.
11-1. We're at the Hobbit numbers.
Oh, jeez. How long did you sit on that one?
Since you pressed record, I didn't notice.
Oh, to be honest, I didn't put that together either. Okay, so let's just jump right into it and start with the reason we're celebrating anniversaries in the first place. Assassin's Creed turned 15 this year on November 14th, as it released back in 2007. In this game, we played as Altair ibn La'ahad, who was born on January 11th, 1165, and passed on August 12th, 1257. Louise, what is your favorite moment or character out of Assassin's Creed?
Oh God, is it bad to say that the original is the one that I've played the least?
No, that one is so vastly different from the rest of the games that it feels different.
It really does. It's a really good starting point, but from the jump between here and 2, it's so different.
I always felt like 1 was like this trial run, kind of like a proof of concept game.
Yeah, there's still very much like that remnant of Prince of Persia in it.
Yep.
Before you get to the Renaissance in the later games.
And that's why I didn't play Assassin's Creed when it first came out. I was just like, it's a Prince of Persia knockoff. I got no interest in this. But once I finally did play it, I think my favorite moment is when he refuses to kill Maria, because that really shows his transformation of the arrogance and the, I guess, snide way that he felt like he was above everything at the very beginning, and that moment just showed his transformation.
Yeah. Don't have anything to add. I completely agree. Oddly enough, I think Maria is one of my favorite characters from 1. I think Maria or Malik.
Malik is my favorite. He's just like the Sass King, and
amazing.
I like Maria. I like him. I like Maria overall, but when you just take a look at her in AC1, there's nothing there to really like.
Yeah.
She's just
most of it comes from the novels and the memory keys and revelations.
Yep. Absolutely.
Then even then, she's still given barely any personality and then killed.
Yeah, and you mentioned the novel. That scene in the novel is just so much worse.
It's not the worst bit of the novels.
Well, the idea that they're pulling Malik's head out of a burlap sack and look what you made me do.
Yeah, that's definitely happened. That definitely happened.
So for anyone who hasn't played Assassin's Creed yet, this game was set in the Third Crusade, specifically during Altair's Hunt of the Nine, which happened between June-ish of 1191 and September 1191.
Speedy boy.
Oi?
Speedy boy.
Yes. I did the math once, and I don't understand how that game could happen within that 4-month time period when it takes 5 days to ride a horse between Masyaf and Jerusalem. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and it has to end by early September because of the Battle of Arsuf happened at September 7th, 1191.
Yeah, Arsuf was very early in September.
And it ends fairly recently after the siege of Accra, um, because you still see the dead bodies outside the gates.
Oh God, you do. That was. Oh God, I remember studying this for an exam, and I don't remember when it was.
It was, I want to say it was like early June.
Hold on, Wikipedia, save my ass. It says July.
July. Okay, so that's why I say June-ish,
12th of July, apparently.
because the very beginning of the game you start in Solomon's Temple at in Jerusalem.
Mm.
So we've mentioned Arsuf, Accra, Jerusalem. Masayef is also another big city, and Damascus. All these jumping around points, he has to be like the glitch where he flies,
I love that.
because like there's like no way in my mind that he can make it. And I remember like the very first chapter or two in the novel, Secret Crusade, gives an exact date of when he started and how long it take. I think it takes between cities. He says something like a 5-day ride.
And that's also including something like you've got to let your horse rest as well, or you may need to swap horses in cities. You need to get food and water for yourself.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem probable. Even
Yeah.
even if you're riding full out overnight, like your horse isn't going to make 5 days, let alone 3.
Nope. So I think we could probably stay on that inconsistency for a while. So let's move on to Assassin's Creed 2. That game just saw its 13th anniversary on November 17th. It's released in 2009. This game we played as Ezio Auditore da Firenze, who was born on June 24th, 1459, and died on November 30th, 1524. Those dates, if you kind of get an idea of your world history, that puts us right in the middle or somewhere near the beginning, I think, of the Italian Renaissance.
Yeah, during like the high period of the Italian Renaissance.
So we see Ezio's birth at the beginning, but we skip ahead like 17 years, and it starts on December 26th, 1476, and heads to December 28th, 1499. One of our largest spans in the series of 23 years.
Yeah, really doesn't show.
No, and that's probably the thing that I don't like the most about this game, is that you can't tell the age. Like if you're not paying very specific attention to when the sequences come up or the dates in the DNA tracker. But what is your favorite kind of moment out of 2?
Oh God. Well, who doesn't love having a fist fight with the Pope, everybody? Just saying that out of context is the most hilarious thing. It's like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm having a fist fight with the Pope. What?
Yeah, there are a lot of great moments in this game. There's the fist fight with the Pope. There is
all the stuff with Leonardo.
Yeah, Leo is. I actually like Leo better in Brotherhood.
Yeah.
My favorite moments actually come out of the DLCs.
Oh, the speech.
So there's the speech in the Bonfire of the Vanities, but there's also the way Katarina acts in the Battle of Forli.
The fact she actually did that.
Yes.
They've actually done that.
Yes, she did.
Mad respect.
She was known as the Tiger of Forli for a reason. Not to mention her putting the what was it? She put the Catholic Church on lockdown when she was pregnant.
Yeah, pretty much.
2 is where I started in the series. I got it for Christmas in 2009, and the glyphs is what really drew me in. It's where they really expanded on the series, and since then it's been almost yearly I've bought the new game. We mentioned the Italian Renaissance, and this game in particular had a few different locations. There was Florence, San Gimignano, Forlì, Monteriggioni, and then, believe it or not, you spend most of your time in Venice.
Oh yeah, you have isn't it like a 10-year gap in Venice while he's training with the
Something
thieves?
like that. The biggest gap that I can remember is between the Battle of Forlì and the Bonfire of the Vanities. That is 10 years.
Yeah, there's definitely a big gap while he's in Venice because he has that chat with Rosa, doesn't he? Where it's like, oh, it's been 10 years since my
Yes,
father, and
he
my brother's
mentions
died,
that
and he's
it's
like,
been,
so it
yep.
must be at least 5 or 6 years that he's been there, whether on and off.
Yeah, he
But
does
he's been
mention
there a
that, and he's
while.
like, "It's my birthday," and that's when she hands him the ship manifest.
Manifest, yeah.
Yep. Um, so that brings us to Brotherhood, released 52 weeks later on November 16th, 2010. That means this game has just released its 12th anniversary. Again, we play as Ezio Auditore in the Italian Renaissance, but this time we're centered around Rome. There's a couple other cities in there, specifically when you go and do the Leonardo war machines, and you end up in I'm drawing a blank on where we assassinate Cesare.
Oh, it's the one in Spain, isn't it?
Valencia?
Oh, it's the one in Spain, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, bloody! Hang on.
Yes. The city where
It's not
Cesare
the one from
dies.
it's not the one where from the film, which is
No.
what I'm thinking of. Hang on. Speedy Google, speedy Google. Yeah, Valencia.
Oh, look at me remembering stuff.
Nicely done.
Um, this game had two DLCs. The Copernicus Conspiracy, which was at the time of release a PlayStation exclusive, but now is in the Ezio
The
collection.
collection.
Yep. And we have the Da Vinci Disappearance.
I always forget the Copernicus Conspiracy is a DLC. Because the first
Yes.
time I properly paid attention to Brotherhood was when I played the Ezio collection. So it was just included. It was like, oh, there's extra missions for this guy.
Yeah. And it's kind of weird because it talks about Copernicus jumping from the Templars to the Assassins. Well, not really assassins. He just kind of does his own thing, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's like, I'm just going to astronomize, or whatever the word is. And it's like, if they could not kill me, that would be great.
Oh, yeah, he's just like, I'm going to tell people the truth even though they don't want me to.
It's like, if they kill me, I'd prefer they
I'd
didn't.
prefer they didn't. And for
Stabbing
some
hurts.
reason, Ezio's just like, yes, I will save you.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like about Brotherhood, other than the way Leonardo is, um, I like the fact that this game in particular, it's not a specific moment. It's the Brotherhood system, the recruitment system. That's probably my favorite part of that whole game.
You get so attached to your recruits and stuff, and it's like, you feel like a proud parent when they graduate to become their own full-fledged assassin.
If I remember right, this is also the first game that put in cheats, and I still, for the life of me, can't figure out how to work them. But one of them, I think it is if you 100% sequence 4. That's the one where you start the training for the recruits. It's called
Yeah.
Sisterhood. It turns
Oh.
all of your recruits into females.
See, I did that the hard way. I just recruited only women.
That's what I do too, if I'm honest. I saw that, and I just went, that seems kind of daft, even for 2010.
Why have it as a cheat? It's so easy to just. Oh, there's a
Ignore
guy
some.
being. Oh, they need help. Oh, it's a dude. Never mind. He's got it.
Yep.
He's,
No,
he's,
he's going to be fine,
he'll
or
go get
he's going to
wine.
end at the bottom of that cliff. Well, that's fine.
This civilian has been killed. Whoops.
We can't pass through Brotherhood and not talk about Bartolomeo di Alviano.
Oh, but he's so good.
He you don't get enough of him in 2, so it's really when you see him
Really
in
don't.
Brotherhood is where you really get him. That whole sequence with the Baron de Valois and just standing outside their fort, yelling at him, telling him he's got nothing.
Oh God, I'm trying to remember what the line is because
um,
send you to the malfatto Antonio
yep.
to the effing underworld.
And there's also that line about why don't you grow a pair and release my wife? And he ends up telling him that how does he say it? Nothing grows there.
Oh,
Or
nothing grows between your legs.
except there's a hole to the Metadetto Inferno.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
He's just so good, amazing comedic relief.
I think
I love his like relationship with his wife, and it's like
yeah.
it's mate. Yeah, we were robbed of more Bartolomeo content in 2.
Yeah, because he doesn't show up until near the end of Venice.
Yeah, and even then he only has a few missions, and one of them isn't it rescuing him
Yeah.
when he's imprisoned?
When he's in prison, yeah. I wish I had realized how to do shorts on YouTube a little sooner, because I would have made that Brotherhood line a short. I might just go back and do that anyway.
Do it. I'd do it. It's so worth it. I
Um,
think, oh God, if I don't know because for like I feel like Claudia is still one of my favorite bits, or like because of even though like she went through the same amount of tragedy as Ezio did in 2,
she
she
went through
really doesn't
worse,
get.
honestly,
Yeah.
because she gets forced into running Mario's business, and if you read the book, she's not running the business; she's at a convent.
Oh, I don't know why. Oh.
Because men.
Yeah, I think because men and because the author is
It's
also a man.
really has to do with the culture of the time, and
Yeah.
it was either you were um,
Oh, what was the
doing
what?
as your husband said, or you're in a convent.
Oh, there was a line I read heard recently in a Tudor documentary, or like a reconstruction that was like, women's destinies are you are a wife, you're a mother, you're a nun, or you're a prostitute. So you have to decide one of those. And it's like,
Oh
I feel
yeah,
like
I
Claudia
remember
would be
hearing that
like,
somewhere.
no, I'm going to ignore all of those. And I love that Brotherhood gives her that sort of there's that inch of like she's telling Ezio, no, you're being unreasonable. And I love the bit where he's like, oh God, she's gonna get killed, storms into the Rose and Fury, and she's standing there with like 3 dead guards and a bleeding knife. She's like, what? Do you think I can't handle this?
That scene in the book is bigger, because there's like a trail of bodies going out to the garden in the back, and it's just like, oh my goodness, my sister's dead. And then he finds her protecting like 3 or 4 courtesans with a knife, and she's like, what? And that gives us that whole line of, my sister knows how to wield a blade.
And I'm willing to do it again.
it their conversations in Brotherhood really encapsulate the culture of the time. It's either you listen to your husband, or you listen to your brother or your father. And she's just like, no, you don't know what, you've been gone for 25 years. I can handle this. I know how to run a business.
Yeah. They're both the child of bankers. They clearly both have the education. I don't see why Giovanni would only teach his sons and not his daughter.
Well,
It wouldn't make sense to me.
it doesn't, especially I think Giovanni was a little bit more open to allowing his daughter into the, because he, look at what he did for Paula and bringing her into the Brotherhood.
That's true.
But also, the only downside is she's younger than Ezio, and if Ezio was just starting to get into the business and seeing, he doesn't even know about the assassination or being an assassin at this point. and she is very, I don't want to say hung up, but that's the only term I can think of, with Duccio and how
Teenage.
vindictive she is.
I think the phrase is teenage angst.
Okay,
Because
yeah,
she's what, 15? I want to say.
I think
Because
that's right.
he's 17.
And Petruccio's like
Yeah.
12.
Yeah. So 2nd of January 1461 is her birthday, and if they die in
So yeah, that makes
76,
her
she's
2 years younger than
14.
Ezio.
She's nearly 15. She's like a week out from her birthday.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize it was that close.
Yeah,
That's
because
got to make that,
they die Boxing Day, or what we would call Boxing Day now.
that really makes uh her birthday a pain every year.
Yeah. There's a
I know.
really nice fan rewrite that someone's done of the Ezio novels and 3. They've also done, I think, Unity as well. They did a fan rewrite of that, and then a couple of like one scene wonders for certain other games that kind of look into this a lot better and in a lot more detail. They're kind of like, oh, what would the effect of this like ongoing trauma be for the kids? Not for the kids, for the siblings throughout, you know, 2 right up to when Ezio dies.
Yeah, I mean,
Worth a read.
we get an idea of Maria's trauma through the feather collection,
Mm.
but we really don't get a lot of Claudia's trauma, because I can only imagine if they did if they did what I assume they did to Maria, that they probably would have done that to Claudia too.
Yeah, they probably would have, but I don't see it in her personality.
That's the thing. You don't see it in her personality.
No, I feel like she'd be one of those who maybe it's like Ezio is like that sudden anger, maybe like trying not to go into that quest of revenge, but
Well, actually, now that I think about it, maybe I've always assumed that Maria was raped.
yeah,
But thinking about it, that
I've always read it as exactly the same.
that
That
might not necessarily be the case, because I would have assumed that if Maria was raped, so was Claudia. But with
unless
the
the
difference of their reactions, it's very highly unlikely we're reading that wrong, and that this is just her reaction to
unless
knowing, because Maria knows what Giovanni is.
yeah.
She knows that he's an assassin and knows that everybody's going to be dead.
Mm. Like she understands the consequences a lot more than Claudia does, who's just saw people being taken away for no reason.
Yep.
Like she doesn't. She's only seeing the surface level of it. I don't know. Could you
Yeah,
could
because
see
that short
both.
film at the beginning, she sees Giovanni um, leaving in his assassin robes and just gives that little nod.
The live action one, yeah.
Yeah. What is that
Because
called? Is that Lineage?
yeah, lineage. Because isn't it that I think it's written somewhere that she knows that he's an assassin, and one of the things that he's like let her bring with her from when they were dating or before they were married was the bakery. Like she opens a bakery in the villa.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. But I think we've spent enough time on 2 and Brotherhood, and we should move on to after Maria's death, which was Revelations. Released another 52 weeks after Brotherhood on November 15th, 2011. That means we've just recently seen its 11th anniversary. Again, we are Ezio Auditore da Firenze, but this time we're in Constantinople during, well, what I consider the Ottoman Golden Age, because we're just about to get Suleiman the Great as its sultan,
Mm-hmm.
as the Ottoman Sultan. The game specifically takes place between March 1511 and May 1512. We have one major DLC, the Lost Archive, which is probably both the most important DLC for the modern day story and the worst DLC they've ever produced.
I don't know. I quite liked it. Like,
You
not.
like the first-person platforming?
I like puzzles. I don't
Okay.
mind it.
Okay, I'll give you the puzzle aspect. It's
I
the
love. I thought. I
controls
think you
of.
know by now. I love quizzing and I love puzzles.
That's fair. It's the controls. It's the first-person floating head aspect that I don't like. And I'm just now into Revelations on my current 100% playthrough,
Hmm.
and I did the Desmond ones first because within the Ezio collection, if you have purchased the Lost Archive, it opens up all of Desmond's missions immediately instead of searching out the Animus fragments. So I did that before jumping into Ezio's life, and those weren't that bad. But the Lost Archive was just very difficult. Um, I think we both can agree the best NPC out of um, and I'm going to say this, and you're probably gonna tell me it's somebody different, but Yusuf,
Yeah, of course. Who else would I say?
um,
Honorable mention to
Sophia,
Sophia. Honorable
yeah,
mention, but Yusuf is clearly the fan favorite
yes, I agree,
to
and
the point
he's
that
the
he
only
has
one that's like, who's the mentor here at Ezio, you or me?
a little bit of calling him out on his bullshit.
Yep,
Ugh,
and he
comedic.
needed it in this game because
He really did.
he's gotten to that point where he's done being an assassin and he throws away a couple of the tenants really quickly just to
Yeah,
try to
that.
get
Oh God, where was it? Where it was the underground city fire.
uh
That was the moment that made me actually hate Ezio for a while
yep, the
because
the
that was
location in the game is called Cappadocia, but
that's
it's
the one.
actually the underground city of, I think it's pronounced Daruku,
Yeah,
something like that.
it's that mission that just made me hate Ezio, and I
Eh,
don't think my like feeling towards him has ever recovered because it's very much like it's that moment, kind of like when Shay throws away the tenants, but Ezio's like, I'm still a good guy, I promise.
he
I
gets
just murdered
called
all these
out,
people, and I'm glad he gets called out. I'm
and
really glad.
not just like Yusuf doesn't call him out in the novel. It's the I can't think of her name, but it's the spy. She's like,
Oh yeah.
there's hundreds of people down here, and he's just like, it's the only way. No, it's because you don't
Mm,
want to take the time to think.
because you're an old crotchety man who wants to go have a nap. So you're going for the easy solution, which is burn them all.
And at this point, he's in his 50s, I think,
Yeah,
almost in his
he's
50s.
52, I want to say.
Yeah, quick math. That's he's
50.
approaching his 52nd birthday.
Yeah.
But that's probably the worst part of Ezio's life for me.
Mm.
But one of the things that I love, we talk about Sophia, is that he sees Duccio in each one of the games too, Brotherhood
The
and
fact they made
Revelation.
this an achievement is the
Yes,
funniest thing.
yes. Beating up Duccio's never not satisfying.
Didn't need to be told twice. I'm glad I got the achievement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Badge of honor.
And one of the things I forgot, I mentioned Lost Archive being one of the most important modern day um, DLCs.
Mm.
One of the things I forgot in Brotherhood, uh, the Da Vinci disappearance was actually an important one in the modern day too, because it gives the coordinates to the Grand Temple, and that's
Oh.
how at the end of Revelations they're already at the Grand Temple because after Desmond comes out of his coma and he's like, I know what to do. They open the van door and they're already there
Oh. See, I forgot about that. That. Oh.
because it's Jupiter that tells him you need to go here and do this. And he's like, I know what I need to do. And there's like, good, because we're already here. And if you don't play that,
Too much. You've already had too much of a nap. Up we go.
yeah, because if you're not playing, if you didn't play that disappearance, you at the very beginning of Revelations, they're like, all the recordings off. We can't see what he sees. It's they wouldn't know how to get there.
Mm.
So with them arriving at the Grand Temple, that I think that's the best time to jump into Assassin's Creed 3. Now
Yeah.
this one didn't release 52 weeks later. This actually, I'm not going to do the math, but it released the day before Halloween in 2012 on October 30th. So that puts it up to
50.
its 10-year anniversary this year.
50 weeks.
Exactly. Oh, is it 50 weeks?
Yeah, well, 50 weeks and like 2 days.
If my memory serves, this was 72 days before the quote unquote Mayan calendar ended, which was part of that whole idea of 72 in the series. It was part of we have 72 days to get this done before the solar eclipse, not solar eclipse, solar flare.
Mm.
So it's like you start Assassin's Creed 3 the day he arrives at the temple.
I love it when they do that though, because that isn't the first time they've done that. Like added in the date of the release or something happening on
It's
the
the
world.
first time in the series because they
Yeah.
go back in the modern day and say all of it happened within a couple months of 2012. Because the
Yeah.
very first Assassin's Creed, and I think the Ezio
September?
collection, yep, all it says
It's
is
September.
September, doesn't have a year.
So Desmond could have basically done the entire first Assassin's Creed in like 3 days.
It's a week. Each memory block is a day.
Oh shit. To be
Yeah, because
fair.
you get out and he goes,
Yeah.
"Oh, we can't do anything tonight. Go to bed." So talking about 3, this is another one with a DLC that has PlayStation exclusive that in the remaster they have let out. This is the Benedict Arnold DLC. But there was also the Tyranny of King Washington, probably the strangest DLC that we've had because that's an alternate timeline. That DLC in particular is Washington shows up after the events of the game, and Connor's just like, "Yeah, I don't want to see you. You burned my village. I don't want anything to do with." And he hands him the apple, and he's like, "Oh, okay, this changes." And then they both have. I'm not sure if it's a Connor only vision or if it's a shared vision.
I don't know, because the ending kind of implies that it's both. Because isn't there that scene where, right at the end, where Washington is telling this other guy in the room to go away, the one who's egging him on to use the apple, and he turns around and the guy's gone because it was like the tyranny of King Washington version of himself, or it's implied to be something like that pigment of him that would have become King Washington.
Possibly, it might have been that. It's been a while since I've played the Tyranny of King
Yeah,
Washington.
same here.
Um, I just mostly remember that Israel Putnam was completely different than he was in the game.
Mm.
But before we move on, 3 was kind of weird. 3 was the one where we had it was the first time we played as 2 separate protagonists.
Yeah.
We started with Hatham E. Kenway. I'm pretty sure the E stands for Edward, is the name of his father.
Mm-hmm.
Hatham was born December 4th, 1725, and died September 16, 1781. Um, After I think it's 3 or 4 sequences, we transition into his son, Rataka Hayton, commonly
From
known as
sequence four.
Connor.
From sequence
Sequence
four.
4. Well, the funny thing about sequence 4 is Connor was born April 4th, 1756. Sequence 4 starts in 1760. So he's 4 years old in that first sequence.
And he's still telling Charles Lee to shut up.
Yeah, yeah. It
What's your name? So I can find you. All right, toddler, go have your nap.
So these 2 birth ranges puts us within Hatham's era is in the 7 Years' War, commonly
Mm-hmm.
known in North America as the French and Indian War. And Rataka Hayton sees mostly the American Revolutionary War. We see Boston and New York. They're our main cities, even though we see a little bit of like Lexington and Concord out in the wilderness. And the game spans between April 18th, 1754 to November 1783. Of course, it's such a big jump, but this time we have 2 generations of Kenways. I honestly, if I have to name a favorite NPC, it's actually Israel Putnam.
Oh, really? Why?
Yes. It's the whole Bunker Hill scene, um,
Oh,
where
yeah.
he's
Okay.
like, if I can stop those ships, will that help? And he's like, yeah, but that's not gonna happen. I expect an apology when you. And he calls him mad as a March hare. It it's just the funniest thing. And then he shows up and he's like, I'll be damned, you survived.
That is Bunker Hill. Bunker Hill isn't the one with the blockade where he's running through the city while it's
Yes,
being bombed.
that's where it begins.
That is it's one of my favorite missions, honestly.
Yep. So that's the only
Completely with
place where
you.
we see Putnam, except there is one other scene, and you really have to pay attention to know that it's Putnam speaking because it ends the sequence right there, and the animus shifts out.
Is that the
It's
speech?
it is where right after Ratziger Hayton was to be hanged, he is the one telling the soldiers to stand down. He just saved Washington's life.
Oh.
So if you were surprised that I like Putnam, who's your NPC MVP?
No, it wasn't that I was surprised that you liked Putnam. It's more I forgot. I thought Putnam was a different person, but yeah, I agree. I quite like
Oh,
Putnam. Um, it's been a while since I played through. I'm currently replaying it. I'm up to sequence 5.
so you're right, right around the point of
I think he's gone to Boston with
it's the Boston
Achilles.
Massacre, yeah.
Yeah, where he's gone with Achilles for the first time.
So I get why people like Achilles, but if you
Mm,
are only playing the main game, I think Putnam's the best. But once you start looking into like the homestead missions, that's where this game really picks up because you get
yeah,
people like Miriam and Norris. Their love story is just so
it's.
it's it warms my heart.
I love the homestead. I love it so much. It's like it just feels like that community aspect
Yep.
of like Connor is rebuilding a home
He is
and like
absolutely like
yeah.
the you have to I don't remember her name, but she's the seamstress. She's the tailor.
Oh God, what is her name?
And when her ex-husband or boyfriend
They
shows up
all
and everybody
ran
is there
round.
like,
It's like, yep,
we will kill you.
love that. No one
Yeah.
stands between her. No, you're not getting anywhere near her. Love that.
Uh, Terry and the loggers. Terry and
Oh, the first people you meet, yeah.
yeah, oh they're just like I could stand there for like 10 minutes just listening to them bicker at each other cuz they legitimately act like that crotchety old married couple
Yeah.
and their wives are
Those
just
two
like,
guys, it's just
yeah. I will admit that doing the Encyclopedia of the Common Man achievement, that can be a pain because you have to catch them doing different things. And I like how the homestead is set up. It's probably my favorite thing of the whole game because they're not always doing the same thing when you're there. They're doing different things, cutting wood and making chairs and
there's a personality to them that I don't think you get in, like, for example, Ravensthorpe in Valhalla.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Is where it feels like they're only doing one or two things or repeating lines, even though you go back quite frequently.
Oh, they
The
absolutely
Homestead,
only have
there
like
is a
5 lines.
personality. It's like, oh, I feel like I can get to know this person better rather than feeling like Belle. It's like, there's the baker, there's the blacksmith. It's like,
Yeah, and they're all just standing outside waiting for you to show up in
Ranvi
Ravensthorpe,
forever.
and it's just like,
Ranvi never leaving that bloody table.
yes, yes. And that's the one thing I don't like. We'll get to that
Yeah.
with Valhalla, but you never see the homesteaders in the same spot ever. It feels like it's a moving, breathing community.
And in real life, you wouldn't. Like,
Yep.
you've got probably one small cabin and your life and all the woods and the land around you. You wouldn't just be in one spot.
And the fact that all the homesteaders call Achilles the old man on the hill, it in their it's affection really. It
Yeah.
and when we meet Achilles, and he's really that crotchety old man. He is the true definition of old man yelling at the sky. And
You kids
but
get off my lawn.
he softens up, and it really starts when he realizes that Connor is willing to die for that belief.
Mm.
But I just saw how long we've been in through this, so let's try to get to the next game, which actually I want to highlight, and I don't think we need to. As much as I would love to give it as much love as we've given Ezio and the others,
It needs more love.
Liberation also
Yeah.
released on October 30th, seeing its 10-year. Aveline de Grand Prix, the only solo period, not optional gender, woman and brother, the only female game period that we've gotten. That's why I
I
want to
mean,
highlight it.
yeah.
Aveline was born June 20th, 1747. Again, that puts us in the 7 Years' War, specifically in New Orleans between January 16, 1765 and 1777. Um, the only NPC I can think of that we spend any amount of time with is Bernard.
I remember Baptiste. I think he's one of the targets,
He
but I
is.
only remember that because of the film, the
Oh, yes.
2016 film, because he's one of the ancestors.
Yep.
He's
And
Moose's
then I
ancestor.
get him confused with Agate.
Yeah, which
I don't
is
remember which
isn't
one's the true
he's
mentor and which one's the target because they both turn out to be
oh
bad.
well isn't bad a sliding scale?
Well, true. Like they both seem to be like trying to manipulate Aveline.
Yeah.
But the best part of this game that I wish they had brought back was the persona. Um,
That's such a
what?
cool
Yeah,
feature.
the idea that you could change your outfit and go into a different location or restrict your climbing or something like that was something that
Or
I
it has
wanted out of
like
Odyssey.
yeah, or like I feel like Syndicate would have also been a really good way to use that. And I feel like there is concept art of it in for one of these later games, but they scrapped it. It probably was Syndicate, to be fair. Of but the idea of like them changing your social ability, or like changing how you interact with people based on how you're dressed, feels very much that assassin thing of hiding in plain sight. You are
Yep.
blending in. That I really think should be utilized a lot more than it has been.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree. But this, I really wish it was a bigger game. It's in the Assassin's Creed 3 remaster. I can't wait to play it again. So that brings us 52 weeks later to Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, releasing on October 29th, 2013. So it's just now seeing its 9-year anniversary. If I remember right, this released a week or two before the Xbox One and a couple months before the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, it
First,
was the first one that was available on both, I believe.
yep, it's the first cross generation game. Um, we play as Edward James Kenway, who was born March 10, 1693, and died December 3rd, 1735.
Oh my
Uh,
god, he died on Haythan's birthday.
Day before Hatham's birthday.
Night of, but
Yeah.
oh my god.
Yep. And I saw when I was recording this, I was like, that's not right. And I went back and looked at Forsaken and went, oh, it
Oh, it
was.
is. Oh no.
So this puts us in the golden age of piracy. Specifically, we see Caribbean cities, Havana, Nassau, and Kingston. And the games is set mostly between June 1715 and October 1722.
Towards the tail end of the golden age of piracy, which
Yes. And it makes sense the way, because this is the game that introduces sages.
mhm,
And the idea of the observatory and Black Bart being the reason why Black Bart conquered like 120 some ships. He's like the most notorious pirate when it comes to ships taken. And it
for a
makes
man.
sense because he can use the crystal skull in the observatory to do it.
Yeah.
Um, he's a good NPC, but he's not my favorite.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's not my
And
favorite.
I jump between. It depends on the day. It's
Oh,
either Mary Reed and Bonnie or Blackbeard.
see, I was gonna say Mary or like Steed.
Oh yeah,
Steed is great. Steed's always a fun one. I
Steeds
love
just
Steed.
doesn't have enough time. He's kind of
Yeah.
like
He disappears after like sequence, is it 4 or 5?
yeah,
And then it's
something like
like
that.
you find his corpse in the gibbet after Edward
No,
didn't.
that was Rackham.
Was it Rackham?
Yeah, that was Rackham.
Oh, I swear, because
Because I'm pretty sure
he
that
meets the
that
same sort of
moment.
ending. He meets the same ending anyway, because
Yeah.
historically, Stede Bonnet was known to have basically been begging and crying and been an absolute weeping mess at his execution,
Yep.
to the point that people were feeling sorry for him.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure it's Rackham in the gibbet because he makes a comment about him being a poor captain and something about the mutiny.
I thought he was still in the prison when you're going
That's
to get
Vane.
Mary. Oh, me too.
Yeah, that was Charles Vane.
Me too.
Mary is just one. Is probably for me. Mary is. I think today I'm going to say Mary's my favorite, and
Yep,
it's that
hard
whole.
agree.
Your name's not James, is it? That whole
Oh,
sequence, that whole moment.
that like subtle reveal if you didn't know your like pirate history.
Yep.
Fantastic, 10 out of 10. And I also love that thing that it's not showcased as much, and I wish it had been. But like Mary slowly becoming some sort of like mentor figure to Anne. And so she
Yes.
grows into her own personality and gains her confidence. And
And
that's
that's
something we
why I
haven't
like.
really seen in
And
games.
that's yeah. That's why I like Anne so much. I would rather have Anne as my quartermaster over Adewale, just
Ooh.
because I like her personality more than I like
Yeah.
Adewale's.
Like I
Um,
respect Adewale, but I feel like I'd get on better with Anne.
yep. And the idea that Edward was just like, "Why don't you come to England with me?" And she's like, "No, I'm Irish. That's not going to go well." Um,
Mad
but
respect for that.
speaking of Adewale, um, Black Flag had two DLCs. It had one for Aveline, which they just called Aveline. That was another PlayStation exclusive. I have yet to play that DLC.
I will be honest, I have never even heard of that until now.
And then we have the big one, the one they released on as a standalone, December 17th. No, yes, December 17th, 2013 was when it released as a DLC, and February 18th on 2014 is when they put it out on its own. Freedom Cry, where we
Mm.
saw Adewale, born 1692 to 1758. Um, Working as an assassin, he searches Port-au-Prince trying to get out. And this game is set between 1732 and July 8th, 1737. This is another game that we don't have to really stand a lot to but if you haven't played this DLC specifically, absolutely go out and play it. It
Yeah.
touches on slavery and the things that the reason, quote unquote, the Maroon Rebellion was so important in
Mm.
Caribbean history.
It's not as long as the main games, but it's definitely worth playing, and there are scenes in it that stick with me.
Yep.
Particularly that bit where he's trying to get all the slaves off the sinking ship and he has to
Oh,
swim
that's
through.
heartbreaking.
It's one of those. It's like that and Lisbon in Rogue are the two that
Yep.
stay with me for like in a kind of like haunting way that nothing else in the games really has done.
Yep.
The
I
ones that
totally
like
agree.
that quiet horror of like, oh shit.
Um, and really the only deal that is probably the highlight of the game for me. But when it comes to a NPC, the only one that really sticks out to me is Madame Josephine.
Mm,
She and you find out. I don't remember if it's in his codex entry for Rogue or if it's in. I think Initiates was still around at this time. Actually, yes, I think it was Initiates with his grandson Esiosa.
yeah.
Josephine was I don't know if they married or not, but Josephine was Esiosa's grandmother. They Adewale and Josephine together produced offspring.
Yeah, I don't think they married. I think it was more of a I don't want to say like an on again off again relationship, but something that was a little bit informal.
Yep. Yeah, totally agree. And so that brings us to our next main installment and the last one for the 360 era, Assassin's Creed Rogue. This year it saw its 8th anniversary, releasing on November 11th, 2014. In that game, we played as Shay Patrick Cormac, who was born September 12th, 1731, putting us again in the Seven Years' War, seeing the cities of New York, Albany, and Halifax. Um, Set mostly between January 1752 and March 1760, even though we do have, um, I call it a little bit of an interlude that takes place right around Christmas 1776.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Hope. What can you the only NPC that I really like in this game is Hope, and we're not meant to like her.
Yeah, it's like I don't like Achilles. I don't like most of the others, but there's something about Hope that I don't know if it's that sort of thing of like we're seeing it from quote unquote Shay's perspective, and people have theorized whether or not they had a romantic relationship or whatever. But
They really seemed like they did.
yeah, it's that friendly flirting. Is it a little bit more?
Yeah,
Eh,
and like we could talk about Charles Gist because he was great as a quartermaster.
yeah, he was.
Hatham again. Didn't
Liam
really.
O'Brien.
I don't like Liam.
I I'm impartial, but I think they missed a trick by not having the voice actor Liam O'Brien voice Liam O'Brien.
um, yeah, it's one of the smaller games in the series. You mentioned the Lisbon, what happened in Lisbon, that
Mhm.
earthquake. That's really the highlight of the game. It
I
really
love
is.
I love the set design for all the Arctic sections though. That was
Okay.
like until Valhalla was like I don't know, something about like wintry scenes in games just gets me. And I instantly like those.
Yeah, the
Those
hunt.
in Lisbon were like my favorite ones.
I know this happened. This what I'm going to mention with it was in Rogue and it was in Black Flag, but I liked hunting the narwhals. Just the whaling aspect of it, showing how they would have done it historically at this time.
Yeah.
I know it had a big thing with PETA but nah, I'm good. I'm good. And this game actually did have DLC too. This was the Templar Legacy Pack. It had a couple missions, couple cosmetics. Nothing really big for this game. The big game that released the same day, November 13th, 2014, 8 years ago, was Assassin's Creed Unity. This was the first Xbox One and PlayStation 4 only game.
And the
Um,
first game I ever finished.
oh, the first one you
This is
finished.
where I joined.
Okay.
Just like after Unity's release and before Syndicate was when I got introduced.
So this game is set specifically between December 27th, 1776 and August 7th, 1794. Of course, there are a couple moments where you're farther along, 1810, 1822. Um, so that puts us right in the middle of the French Revolution,
Hmm.
in Paris, Versailles, and Franciade, which was had the name changed from Saint Denis and then back to Saint Denis. But we only see Franciade in the Dead Kings DLC,
Hmm.
which is free for everyone. So if you got Unity, go ahead and get it. Um, in Unity, we play as Arno Dorian, who was born August 26, 1768. Uh, I think you and if I am wrong, I want you to tell me because I'm pretty sure we're going to say that favorite NPC is going to be Elise.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm going to be absolutely wrong here. That the favorite moment was actually all the bugs because there's so much
Also
fun to come
no.
out of that.
Also
Okay, so
no.
what do you got?
So, um, I like Elise, but I've spoken with friends of mine on a private Discord server before about like how she brings out the worst in Arno, that they're almost codependent of, oh, I'm going to make you do this bad thing and you're going to enjoy it. Kind of that
Okay.
toxic friend, toxic lover kind of thing, and I don't really like that vibe.
Okay.
But
So are you gonna go with Bellic then?
I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite secondary like NPC or secondary character in Unity, because I really latched onto Arno when I joined because he was my first assassin.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
the problem I have with Arno as a character in himself is all he wants is to atone for the death of Francois de la Serre and Mary Elise. It's just
and he gets
he's
neither of that
he's
really.
a dog being pulled around and does not care about anything to do with the assassins. They were a means to the end.
Yeah,
And that's it.
yeah. Which I understand now. Like going back and replaying it, there's almost like a sense of apathy. It's like he walks through the estates general and
Yeah,
that
he's just like,
the meeting of the three estates, and he's just like, "What the bloody hell's going on? I don't know. I just need to find Monsieur de la Serre." It's like,
yep.
no, I want to stay and watch the historical event. Come back.
Yeah, I've tried to do that and it just stops. Like nobody
Yeah,
talks and
it's really annoying. We missed the tennis court oath. How dare you?
and and that
I'm pretty sure that's his. No,
it's
it might be
mentioned
his
in the
birthday.
database.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's around his birthday too, because his birthday is the date of day month is the same date the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen was ratified, because they announced that probably about 2 years after Unity, of like, happy birthday Arno, this happened on this date.
I
I
don't
like
remember that happening. Hmm.
um but I think like my favorite bit, and the bit that actually got me into Assassin's Creed as a whole, is the title sequence Escape from the Bastille.
Oh, yeah, that
There's
was
stuff
fun.
about the cinematography, the music,
Yes,
just like
absolutely.
just I remember I didn't even have the game at this point. I was watching Radbrad play on YouTube, and I just kept replaying that sequence over and over and over because I was just enthralled.
So, another one of like I always have this soft spot for the balloon ride,
Yeah.
and I don't
Okay.
know why. Like, I think it's the idea that he has to follow the balloon on the rooftops, and then he grabs that rope, and I think he gets beat up a little bit bouncing off
Yeah, he
buildings.
gets whacked into a couple of walls.
Yeah, and then he wakes up, and she's like, "Bye."
Had to run. Lol. Je t'aime. Bye.
Oh, and thinking about it,
Hmm?
no, well, I guess it depends on where they got his DNA. Because I was thinking that
He
moment
must have
might have
done.
brought in the ancestor of Cal from the
Yeah,
movie.
Callum Lynch. Yeah, because he must
But
have had children, whether or not, I don't know. Because
yeah,
there's that theory going around. It's like, oh, he was drunk a lot when he went back to Versailles after being kicked out. He might have had illegitimate kids from a fling.
I don't think
Because
I think nobody
no,
would want to be around him when he's drunk.
yeah, I don't see that.
Um,
It's like,
Another good NPC, just real quick, is Napoleon.
yeah,
And
yeah, hard agree.
the scene where he finds what I initially thought was an apple, but it turns out it's the key to Saint Denis.
The head of
Uh,
Saint-Denis.
that whole sequence is really the music and the way it's just written and shot. It's beautiful. It's
There's
great.
some really beautiful moments in this game. It's a
Yeah,
shame that the bugs overshadowed so much of it.
yeah, and it's probably the most beautiful when it comes to the graphic fidelity.
Mm,
Like, it's just something about the style of revolutionary France that I like compared to the open nothingness of the RPGs that technically probably run a little bit better and a little higher resolution.
mm.
But it's just the way. And the next game we're going to talk about, which we might as well just jump right into, it's a dirty and grimy era, so nothing's pristine and pretty.
But I respect that so much.
The fact that they did it and they
Yeah.
used the smog and the pollution as the clearing up for your viewpoints was was
Yeah.
a very
I thought
smart
that was very
stylistic
clever.
choice. But if you're curious, what we are talking about is Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which released on October 23rd, 2015. So that's the 7th anniversary of this game.
Hmm.
Here we play as Jacob and Evie Fry, twins born November 9th, 1847 during the Industrial Revolution, or since we are within London, we all usually just look at it as the Victorian era. Specifically the dates of February 10th, 1868 to sometime in 1868. This game
I
set.
sort of figured it out, but it can't be later than maybe August.
Okay.
It's very quick because Queen Victoria's ball at the end
Oh yeah.
wouldn't happen later than August if the season was on. So at
Okay.
latest, it's like maybe like 20th, 25th of August.
That makes sense. And speaking of our favorite moments, that's probably mine. That is honestly probably mine.
The key
The
to
the
the woods.
dancing the dancing with Steric.
Hmm.
Is that dance era appropriate?
I think so. I think it's been simplified for the animating, but it feels appropriate. The Marzuka definitely is.
Okay.
Probably a little bit after its main fashion, but it's definitely like era appropriate. You know, you would dance to this at a ball kind of
Oh,
music.
so that's my favorite moment, and I don't really have a favorite NPC because I'm attached to Evie.
Yeah.
I won't play as Jacob if I don't have to. I don't like his personality. It grates on me.
Mm.
But actually, thinking about it, maybe I do have a favorite NPC in Winston Churchill.
Oh, I have
And
issues with Churchill. I have
and
issues with him.
I mentioned Churchill because we have a moment on September 25th, 1916, where we play as Lydia Fry, Jacob's granddaughter,
Hmm.
who was born March 19th, 1893. Um, you have issues with Churchill, huh?
Yeah, I think I spoke about this with James and Declan when we spoke more about Lydia and Syndicate in general. But basically, in terms of Lydia's whole arc being, I you know you can get he's like, oh, you can get success and gratification from what H.H. Asquith, the prime minister at the time, can give you. He can give you a reward. He's like, I just want the right to vote. He
Yep.
would not agree to that. He would have thrown her in jail. He hated suffragettes so badly.
Okay, that's fair.
It's heroifying his character because of World War II, I think. I don't like him. Not at this
Well,
period.
and if you look at him, and maybe I need to do a full podcast on his life because he jumps from an assassin friend to a Templar friend, and I think back to an assassin friend.
I'm pretty sure in one of I can't remember where it is. I think it might be Initiates again, but I never played that. There's a piece of intel which kind of implies that Hitler, whoever was president at the time, helped orchestrate World War II in the lore of the games. And
Um,
oh, that's
well, yes and no. I think you're talking about part of the Glyph series in Assassin's Creed 2
that might be the one.
because it seems like Stalin, Hitler, Roosevelt, and Churchill were all manipulated by um, Ford, Olds, Firestone, and Edison.
Of course, it's Addison.
Yeah. So
But
it
yeah, but that just sticks out to me because back when I was a newbie Syndicate fan, I remember showing my friend the games and then sending her that out of context, and I have a screenshot of her reply, which is just Churchill, you absolute dick in full caps.
Um,
But yeah, I
yeah.
don't know because this is the game that is like my favorite game. How can I pick one moment? I think. Oh God.
Oh, how about sequence? I think it's 8 with Jacob and not Steric,
Roth.
Roth.
He's bastard man. He's he's my favorite to hate.
Okay.
It's like you have 3 bullets and a gun and 4 people standing in front of you. What do you do? Shoot Roth 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the Alhambra sequence was very. I love the design of it. I wish they could have done more with it.
It's that moment where Jacob really has that epiphany, his come to Jesus moment, where he's
Yeah,
like,
it's like, oh, I'm at the
maybe,
point of no
this
return if
wasn't.
I go forward.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
starting to realize that maybe and my rooks wasn't the best idea.
Mm.
But the one few DLCs that are in Syndicate,
Mm-hmm.
Dreadful Crimes, The Last Maharaja, and the infamous Jack the Ripper DLC. I know how much you love that one. Set during the Autumn of
Yeah.
Terror of 1888.
Yeah. It's
It,
pretty.
it's
It's good, but I don't like it.
it's a it's hard to play. It's hard to get to,
Yes.
especially when they're like,
Very
here's a couple
first
missions of playing as Jack the Ripper.
the very first thing you do is play as Jack.
Yeah.
It isn't even like, oh, we're gonna play as Jacobs a bit and then oh, it's like, nope, you're a serial killer now.
And I thought they gave the idea that
Hmm.
he's mentally ill was a really nice touch with the words jumping up on the screen.
Mm. I do like the graphics of it. It's just there's like the ramifications of it, I think. Particularly with like the whole thing of like, this is a person or persons who historically murdered at least 5 women. I have issues with this. It's like we barely even know the names of the women he did murder, and they are supposed to be people that Jacob trained, that he knew very well,
Yep.
that was basically to be like his like de facto daughters or sisters. And he's just gonna like completely blanch over that. And there's no like you don't see any of the other initiates that Jacob would have trained being helped. Where's his son? Where's Emmett?
Yeah. Like there's just so much about that. And then only Evie comes in and she's got to come back
Where's
from
Henry?
India.
Where's
That's
Henry?
actually, how could we talk about Syndicate and not bring up
The boy.
Jayadeep?
The boy.
Yeah,
Actually, scratch that. I do have a favourite NPC. It's this man right here.
the pressed flowers is a
Oh,
very cute way to
so
show
cute.
not just their love, but
The very personality
and it's also the showing the Victorian idea of pressing flowers.
yeah. Also, fun fact from Underworlds, Henry, the book that Henry starts with when you get the first pressed flower, his mum gave it to him the day he was given the curio shop.
Oh,
So it's his mum's like language of flowers book that she was bequeathing to him.
oh, that is even one more layer. Like right now, I'm on the Black Flag novel moving forward, so
Mm.
I'm not quite there yet. But yeah,
It's a nice touch, and it's like Piaro loves her son. It's like I have issues with Arbaz, but like these two, I love them
yeah,
so much.
yeah, totally
And it's a
get that.
shame we didn't get more of Henry. He's in one of the comics. Like there's a
Yes,
Syndicate comic
the
which
the
Locus that's
locust. Yeah,
just Evie and Henry. There's Freddy in there too,
yeah.
but
That's
there's no
got
Jacob.
nope, and that has to do with the Pinkerton agency. Something I don't remember what they were doing.
Oh, the Voynich manuscript.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I only read it once.
One of those Pinkerton agents is Mark Twain. Fun fact.
Yes, yes, it
Samuel
is.
Clemens is Mark Twain.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting to see
It's a
how.
ride.
Yeah. So let's move on to we're jumping 2 years now into the RPG era. So releasing on October 27th, 2017 was the called a semi reboot, I guess, a soft reboot. Assassin's Creed Origins, taking us back to 49 BC to 39 BC. So we're in Ptolemaic Egypt, seeing Siwa, Alexandria, Memphis, and the Giza complex. Playing as Bayek of Siwa, who's born sometime around 85 BC, and his wife Aya of Alexandria, who was also born sometime around 85 BC. We do have two DLCs here. We have the Hidden Ones and the Curse of the Pharaohs, which adds like Thebes and the coast of Sinai. I don't remember if there was an exact city there or not. But thinking about NPCs on this one, Cleopatra. And I know she's got that basic Hollywood look where she's over sexualized.
Elizabeth Taylor-esque.
Yeah. But she's the only one that really sticks out besides like Apollodorus.
Yeah.
And Caesar.
The one that they keep coming back to is it's because of Aya's position, I suppose. It's got to be Cleopatra.
Yep. And is it Alex? What voice Cleopatra?
Yeah.
Or do I have her mixed up with
Alex was Aya, wasn't it?
I have the
Alex, I think, was Aya.
Oh, okay, I probably have them mixed up, but both of their voice actors, the Sisterhood did that first podcast where they were together and had them do the lines from the Origins comic.
Oh, that was so good.
That was amazing.
I got chills.
Yeah.
But
I'm
yeah,
gonna have to find that again.
Yeah. Definitely worth a re-listen, I think. In terms of like standout moments, the one that keeps coming back to me is the heron assassination right at the beginning, that cutscene, and Shadia.
Yep. That's
And
the big one.
Not the crocodile, the hyena.
Okay, the heron was the one at the beginning, right?
Yes, the one with the mask cat dagger catch.
Yep.
The
crocodile's the one with Shadia.
Yeah, it's the one where she was trying to do it for her daughter. I think it was the one before the crocodile. I think it was the hyena.
Yes, that's the hyena where we're in the Great Pyramid and
her confession room or whatever they call it now. That bit, that is like even Bayek feels a little bit guilty because it's shared grief. It's like, oh, you're doing this because of your dead child. How can I hate you for this, but you're still doing something that is harming other people, so I have to stop you.
Yep, absolutely agree. And that's
the one assassination I didn't take any pleasure in doing.
The
in Origins.
The scarab. That one was a bit.
Isn't that the same voice actor as Adewale?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yep. And I think that's also the same assassination where we first get our glimpse of mythology coming into Assassin's Creed, where we fight Apep.
Yes,
because he gets that big waft and he just pops out and
it's the priest's wife, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I love that sequence. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was, and it you don't realize you just see what they believe, what he believes, and it's not
real for them.
It's real for him, and it doesn't link to the Isu or anything like that.
It's like, this is what he would his brain would make sense of based off what he's been told and believes in.
What he believes, and he ignores all of the Isu machines. He just
like, weird tech. Oh, okay, let's
fly not with meant for me. Let's move on.
Glowing boat. Here we go.
Yep. Yeah, there really isn't much else to say about Origins. I wish it was a full IA game. And
yeah,
the IA missions I hate.
You're so restricted. and I hate
Yes,
that.
and
She
that's why.
just because even at the end when you're in Rome, you can't
Fighting,
climb. You can't
Flavius, I
climb.
think Flavius, with
Oh
just
god,
the
that took
dual
forever.
daggers. Mm-mm.
No matter how upgraded you are as Bayek, as soon as you swap, you have like base stats.
Yep.
It takes forever, and there is no sense why she would be that low leveled in comparison, or why she would have such basic gear.
Or why he has, Isu weapon flails.
Hmm, that do.
It But once you get past him and you see the death of Caesar, and you get that moment where she goes, "I am no longer Aya, I am Amunet." That is just like, oh
Oh, that narration, so good.
yeah, yeah. While there's some issues within Origins that I have issues with, it's
Hmm.
not bad overall. It's
Yeah,
not. It was a good first entry into full blown RPGs.
yeah. There's definitely like some things about like I was speaking about this to someone literally yesterday about the combat. They felt that it was okay, but it was really sort of honed in with the next installment that they sort of found their groove a little bit with it.
So let's actually go right into that next installment, which released October 5th, 2018. Unless you bought a higher edition, then you got a 3-day early access. And this is Assassin's Creed Odyssey,
Woo.
set specifically between 431 BC and 420 BC, putting us right in the middle end. I'm not quite sure where
Beginning.
of the Peloponnesian War.
Yeah. Beginning of the Peloponnesian War, the era called the Archidamian War after the Spartan king Archidamus.
Okay. We of course see 300 at the very beginning, the
Hmm.
stand of the 300. So we spend a lot of time in Athens and Sparta, a little bit in Delphi, and within this game, you could play as Alexios, but I'm going to highlight the canonical choice of Cassandra of Spartan, also known Cassandra the Spartan. Cassandra of Sparta, also known as the Eagle Bearer, born 458 BC and died October of 2018. Long old life. Um,
Yeah.
so you were mentioning combat in this game.
Yeah.
So they did really refine it.
Yeah. It just
Uh,
feels less assassiny,
it does. And well,
which
they
is
took
something
away
I
the
also
hidden
prefer.
blade. They,
Yeah, they took away blending,
yep,
like
you
in
can't even
bushes.
hide in hay bales at this point.
Yeah, can't
So
do
they
that.
really stripped the um, hidden aspect of it, which I get it, makes sense. Cassandra's a Spartan; she wouldn't hide.
Yeah,
Um, but speaking of Spartans, that actually brings me to my favorite NPC. Um,
I think I know where you're going with
Oh
this.
goodness, I'm blanking on his name. All I can see is like
Is
a
this the
burning,
warehouse? The
yes,
warehouse?
the burning warehouse.
Brasidas.
Yes,
Brasidas.
Brasidas.
Oh,
Yeah,
what a man.
that is absolutely
Favorite.
my favorite, and that's probably my favorite moment of the game.
Oh, what an introduction.
Yeah. If it's not that as my favorite moment, it's where we meet Barnabas with the
Oh,
Cyclops.
Cyclops. did did he call you Cyclops? Did it hurt your feelings?
Yeah, yeah, and with the goat.
You can be able to go and find the goat
You go back, you find the goat, you get an achievement for
achievement.
killing that goat. Yeah.
They really know what players are going to do, don't they?
Yeah, and I don't think you can do anything else with that eye after doing that.
No, it's just an inventory item. I don't even think you can sell it.
That would make sense.
It's just there. It's like, well, this was in a goat's ass. Cool.
um, so there isn't a lot. Like we could go into this game and its downside, but there's a lot of people who have played it a lot.
And this was
Prefer
a
it
lot
more
of
than
people.
Valhalla.
Yeah, and this is, I think, for a lot of people where they joined. Like,
Yep.
James started with Odyssey. My flatmate from university, I got them into like Assassin's Creed with Odyssey, and then they went back and played it in an order. Like it means a lot to a lot of people. I can understand why people don't like it, why they
Yep,
have issues with it, but it means a lot to people.
it does absolutely. And like I thought it was a lot of filler. Turns out it wasn't as much filler as the final game on our list.
Yeah, the
But
sailing takes a lot, I think.
sailing takes a lot.
Particularly if you're going, I think it's if you're going north, it's slower than it is going south, or
Really,
vice versa.
I don't think I've ever noticed that.
To do something to do with the waves and the wind, generally it's slower going one way than the other.
That would make sense if they based that on actual wind currents around Greece.
Mm.
But we did get two uh, DLCs with this one, and the Legacy of the First Blade and the Fate of Atlantis. These are probably for the series lore the most important um, DLCs because we meet Darius, and then we get more modern day within the Legacy of the First Blade or
Mm.
the Fate of Atlantis.
Yeah,
Um, I
I
guess
prefer Fate of Atlantis. I know some people have issues with that, but I genuinely do.
the problem I have with Fate of Atlantis is the bulk of the DLC is a created simulation by Alethea for Cassandra for Layla to relive in the Animus. So it's hard to tell
A
it
simulation and a simulation and a
yeah,
simulation.
if it's real, if it's fake, and that's really kind of part of the issue I have with Odyssey because we're taking old DNA and filling in the gaps with a book. So that's
Yeah, you're drawing
probably my
conclusions.
yeah,
Stuff
and
like
I get it. That's the best way to explain like dialogue choice,
the chase. Yeah,
and it explains a bit on um, the Imperial truth from Origins, with Layla's machine being able to break the code, her mind can break the code.
that she can play male characters
Yeah,
because that was something that I think they established pretty early in the Desmond games that you can't do. I think it was Aveline's ancestor. I think it was Subject 4.
Subject One was Evelyn.
That was it. 1, not 4. He
Yeah, four's
he had
Cross,
yes, that's it. My mistake. But one, they started having psychological issues because they were living a person of a different gender.
and I think we saw that issue with
She starts having
Subject
parts of it.
15, the
The
pregnant
pregnant
subject.
one, yeah, the DNA of the fetus's mother and father were competing.
I don't, huh? That's actually kind of interesting. I was wondering why we never played as. I guess that's an interesting way of in lore of saying, well, you can't do that because of this instead of
Yeah,
women don't sell.
yeah, because there's some. I'm pretty sure it's some of the AC2 Desmond's. I think it's his dream where he's Altair and he meets Maria on the, the top,
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, why am I not following Altair anymore?
realizes that the
Hmm.
yep,
Okay,
yep,
that happened.
yeah. Then you find out that's Seth. So
Yep. You just watched your own ancestor's conception.
yeah, yeah, I can see
That's
why that
all.
would give you a bleeding effect.
Yeah.
Um,
But I feel like going back to like why I love Fate of Atlantis, I'm a mythology nerd. Like,
that's fair.
but also like one of the main reasons that I think so many people flocked to this game was the fact that it let you play both Cassandra and Alexios as queer, either
Oh yeah, you
full
have
gay or
absolute.
bisexual
Yep.
if you wanted to, and then one of the decisions in
In the
Legacy of the First Blade basically just nullifies that choice. It's like, yeah, you have to have straight sex. It's for the bloodline. It's like, that,
yep.
it feels,
Yeah, I
no.
remember that being a major issue.
Yeah,
And that was
especially
just
as
5 years
someone,
ago. Wow,
yeah,
5 years.
being someone who is a queer
No,
woman
4 years.
who played Cassandra as a lesbian
Yeah, I did the same.
and is like, I really don't want to do this. It feels uncomfortable, but you're
Yeah,
making me do it.
it and just so you could have Lipidos grow up to be Aya's ancestor, which wasn't needed.
Yeah.
It's like saying the only thing special about Aya and Amunet is that she was descendant of
Ancestor,
Cassandra.
which is completely against assassin tenets, because that's more of a Templar thing of, bloodlines matter,
Yep.
that kind of like purism. Assassin's like, yeah, you're a little down on your luck. You need help. Anyone who wants to fight for righteousness is welcome with us.
Yep. Even though we don't see that within Altair or Desmond, as both were born into the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Um, but before we get off track again, let's get into our last game. Um, we're looking at Assassin's Creed Valhalla, releasing November 10th, 2020. 2 years we've been playing this game. Set mostly with the DLCs between 872 and 887. Seeing the cities of Alcestad, London, Jorvik, Winchester, Dublin, and Paris. So we get a lot of Norse invasions, primarily of England, where we play canonically as Eivor Varinsdottir, born 847. Um, my favorite NPC really was Ivar.
Oh,
And
most
that was
memorable by far.
and
That.
that was until he did what he did to
Oh, Chelbert. He never said a
Jailbird.
word.
Yep.
He
And so
never said
that
a word.
was probably, and it's not my favorite moment because that's always going to be the campfire scene.
Yeah, I love that campfire scene so
But
much.
once we got into Wrath of the Druids, I fell in love with Kara.
Yes. Oh god, there's so many like good, like ambiguous grey slash more villainous characters in Valhalla than I think straight heroes,
Yep.
which I think is kind of the point because are you rooting for the people who are invading or are you rooting for the people who are defending their homeland? As a British woman, as someone from Mercia who grew up in what was then Mercia, that's a tricky question for me. I laid siege to my hometown in this game. How much more divisive could you get? But I think that bit where you have to go and kill Fulke was one of those
Yes.
moments I felt like I synchronized with Eivor so much I physically had to stop because I was getting so lightheaded from my anger.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Just for a bit. It's that point where you are laying siege to, I can't remember where it is.
Cyan Bell, I think.
Yeah, you're rescuing Sigurd, you're killing Folke, and there's a point where you chase her underground and the lights go out.
Yes.
And you just and there's a point I went full like berserker rage at that point, and neither Eivor didn't get any piece of damage from my playthrough at that point because I was just so angry. It was full. I'm just going to attack you. Something's going to happen. You're not walking out of this.
Yeah, there were moments in this
I
game, but
gelled.
there was just so much filler.
Yeah, there's some
Because
good.
like
There's some
there's
good.
some good,
Yeah.
but when you also look at like the Dawn of Ragnarok
Oh,
DLC
haven't played
and
that.
the last not the last chapter, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to end Eivor's story.
The bit in Sky. The bit in Sky was
Yep. The Isle of Skye, that was amazing seeing Cassandra come back. But the
it crashing that wedding.
yeah, and then you had the choice of killing the mother of the bride. But there was that other DLC, the Forgotten Saga. That one,
Oh.
there's just so much filler in this game that, and then seeing the lore through the mythological veil where you don't know what's real, what's not.
Oh.
It it had
Have
some issues. I'm ready to move on.
yeah.
Um, I wish there was New Game Plus or something to where I could replay the missions without having to restart the game.
Yeah, my Eivor is not losing her flower crown. If that means I never replay it from the beginning, so be it.
Yeah, just make a manual save and then just start over, I guess, or do a new account, which will probably be what I do
Yeah.
because I will unfortunately play it over again and get all 93 achievements, which that was another Odyssey had like 93 as well.
But they were far easier to get. Like, I platinumed Odyssey so quickly. I'm not even, I think, not even halfway through with Valhalla, and I'm over 100 hours in.
I am done at almost 500.
Oh, that's. I mean, I understand you want people to play your games for longer, but it feels like Valhalla was the one that lost part of the personality of it. It was like, it's pretty,
Yeah,
it's got history, but I don't remember the characters as much. More
yeah, because we had
the
just so much
online
filler.
chat about them.
Yep, absolutely agree.
And all the
Um,
first thing over Bassem, but
yeah,
who
everybody's.
I don't like, who I really
Yeah,
don't like.
I'm gonna hold out my judgment on him until after Mirage.
I remember watching the AC15 stream in September
Yep.
10th, and it was like it said Bassem had been, oh, and I was just like, it's like, okay, I'm slowly coming around to it, but I don't like
It
Bassem.
makes sense because he's now our modern day character,
And
and we
he's
have
Loki,
to.
and he's actually Loki's personality and
So,
control.
and we have to.
Still don't like him.
Yeah. So it. Well, I guess we'll
Oh,
find out. Hopefully in the spring. We don't have a release date for Mirage, but as we've seen by the average, we could wait until October and November when most of the other series games release. But hopefully we'll learn in the next week or so with the Game Awards. Hopefully we'll get some gameplay and a release date. But with that being said, I want to thank you for joining us today. Be sure to tune in next time for even more about the lore of Assassin's Creed. Louise, where can people find you so they can say hello?
so I have a Twitter for as long as Twitter exists. It is / the Nerdy Archer. I'm also at the Nerdy Archer on YouTube and at Nerdy Archer UK on Instagram. I have my own Assassin's Creed podcast, and I very recently started doing like a little archaeo gaming shorts series about history and like archaeology and fun little facts about the Assassin's Creed series and just historical video games in general. So if you want to know like some 60-second history lessons, come find me.
Yeah, it'll be fun to take a look at. I think I have it open, but I haven't watched it yet. If you love stories about Assassin's Creed lore, please tell your friends and follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting platform. And if you want to support this podcast and help provide for new episodes, visit my link tree at linktr.ee/Visions of the Past for links to my Twitter, TikTok, and other social media channels, and for the specific information on how you can support this podcast. Until next time, my assassin friends, make sure to follow the creed. And to those Templars listening, may the Father of Understanding guide you.